Alright guys, so we're gonna go ahead and finish up our last lesson. I did get a little bit sick, so I'm trying to talk as loud as I possibly can. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Make sure you guys copy this into your notebook. I will be grading your notebooks. So here it is. We're doing expansion and condensation. Condensing, I'm sorry. And we're gonna simplify. So we have exponents. We have our exponent rules. So 2 times 2 times 2, remember, sometimes math people are lazy and they don't like to write things over and over again. Just like there's an invisible one that math people don't like to write. Well, guess what? We don't like to write 2 times 2 times 2 3 times. So what we do is we write it as 2 to the third power, which means 2 times 2 times 2. Now the 2 is called the base, okay? And the 3 is called the exponent. So don't get this confused with 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is not the same thing, okay? This is not the same thing as 2 to the third power, which happens a lot of the times. Because if I ask you, what is 2 to the third power, and you tell me 6, that is wrong. 2 times 2 times 2 gives you 8. Because 2 times 2 is 4, times another 2 is 8, okay? So do not make this mistake. So then here it says 4x to the third power y squared equals 4 times x times x times x. So since it says x to the third power, you write x 3 times. And then y squared, that means you write y 2 times. And then 4 is the coefficient, which means it's a number in front. Okay. So let's go ahead and go through these ones. We're going to do what we call expanding. So we have our coefficient, which is 3 in the front. So I'm going to write the 3. Then we have x squared, which means x times x. Then we have y to the third power, which means y times y times y. Okay? Now we're going to do the same thing for the next one. So 2 is our coefficient. And then we have y to the fourth power, which is y times y times y times y. And then we have z. Z doesn't have an exponent. The exponent is actually 1. Remember how I told you math people are lazy. If they don't have to write the 1, they won't write it. That just means 1 z. Okay? All right, 4 times x to the 0 power. So anything to the 0 power. I'm not sure if we've talked about this or not. I get confused with you guys in some of my other classes. But anything to the 0 power will always be 1. Okay, so that's a little secret. Anything to the 0 power will always be 1, as long as it's not 0. So that's 4 times 1, which is just 4. All right, the next one. Okay, the next one I'm going to skip. I think this is getting too repetitive. You guys get the point. Now we're going to go backwards. Okay, now it's expanded and we're going to condense it. Okay, so we start with our coefficient. Our coefficient will stay in the front. And then we're going to look at the x. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 x's. So x to the 6th power. Okay. Here, y times y, we're multiplying 2 y's. So that's y to the 2nd power. Right, the next one, we have 8. We put an 8. And then we have a times a. That's 3. We're multiplying a 3 times. So it's a to the 3rd power. Okay, and then we have b times b times b. This is b to the 3rd power because we're multiplying. And then the last one, 2 is our coefficient, so we write the 2 in the front. And then we have x times x times x times x times x. That is x a total of 5 times, so x to the 5th power. All right, so this is a part that you guys need to know for the test that's coming up this week. Is when we're multiplying them together. So when we have area of a rectangle, we have 2 different expressions. We have 5x squared, and then it tells you here the width is 2x squared. So to find the area, you multiply both of them. Okay. So I'm just going to rewrite it because I don't know why they use this example as the first one. But okay, pretty much that's all they want us to do. Now, when we multiply them, we are going to multiply the numbers in the front. So 5 times 2, that gives us 10. Okay. Then x squared. So x squared times x squared, That is the same thing as x times x times x times x. That gives you 4 x's that we're multiplying. So 4 x's that we're multiplying is 10 to the x, 10x to the 4th power. Okay, sorry. And so this is our answer. So let's look at number 9. Now the numbers have regular rules. -3 times -2. When you multiply two negatives, that gives us a positive. And then 3 times 2 gives us 6. Okay. Then we have the a's. So we have a times a times a. A times a times a times a times a. Okay. That is a total of 5 a's. Okay, let's look at the b's. I have 1 b here and I have 0 b's there. Remember, b to the 0 power is always going to give you 1. So I'm just going to write a 1 over it. So then here we have just 1b, and then we have times 1. Okay. Now 6 times 1 is just 6. And then a times a times a times a is a to the 5th power. Times, and we only have 1b. And that's our answer. Okay, so let's try this again. We have -2 times a positive 4. -2 times positive 4 is -8. And then we have x squared. That's x times x, and then x to the 3rd power. So 3 of them. So how many x's are we multiplying in total now? We are multiplying a total of x to the 5th power. All right, the next one, -1/2 times -8. Remember, numbers have regular rules. So -1/2 times -8, a negative and a negative make a positive, and half of 8 is 4. Then we have the m's. We have m to the 4th power, m times m times m times m. Here I have m to the 3rd power, so 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then the ends. Here on the ends, I have 1 n here and 1 n there, which is a total of 2 n's that we're multiplying. So times n times n. Sorry, it didn't look fit. So now we have our coefficient of 4 times, and then we have m to the 7th power, so m to the 7th, and then we have n squared, because of a total of 7 n's that we're multiplying. All right. It says evaluate. Now they're wanting us to evaluate. That means that they want us to plug in. So it says evaluate each of the following, expand each expression first, show the substitution. So let me go ahead and take out the calculator real quick. Okay, so while that's loading, we're going to set it up. So you're going to plug this in your calculator. Now the 2 stays the same. Remember, for the letter y, we're going to leave parentheses. And then it's to the 3rd power. And then instead of y, they want us to plug in a 3. So that's what we're going to put in here, 3. Then we go ahead and put this in our calculator. So 2 times 3 to the 3rd power. I have my calculator right now. I believe it's 52. Don't hold me to it though. 57. Oh, look, there it goes. 27 plus 27. It might be 54. Okay, so make sure you're in the calculator page, and then you do 2 parentheses, 3 close parentheses, and use this little arrow next to the X squared button. That'll give you the little option here that you can put any number that you want. It gives us 54. See, I was wrong. All right, the next one. We are going to write everything exactly the same. Everywhere where we see an X, we leave a parentheses for it. Okay. And then inside the parentheses, they want us to plug in a 2. So that's what I do for a 2. Okay. So then we're going to copy that exactly the same way we see it into our calculators. Parentheses 2 to the power of 3. Enter, that gives us 979.2. All right, the next one, the same thing. We have 5z squared times 4z to the third power. Okay, and then instead of z, we are going to plug in a 3. So then here, I'm going to put a 3 here and a 3 here. When we plug it into the calculator exactly the way we see it, times 4 parentheses 3 plus parentheses to the third power. And that gives us 4,860. Okay. I'm going to skip number 15. Let's look at number 17. So this one is negative. We open parentheses and then t squared. Make sure you leave the negative outside the parentheses. The t goes inside. The t is 3, so that's what we're going to put in here is a 3. So then we put in our calculator exactly the way we see it. When you put the negative either inside or outside the parentheses, it does make a difference. Let me show you guys. Oh, negative 3 squared. Okay, one gives you negative 9, one gives you positive 9. So you have to be careful. Okay. Remember, having money and owing money is not the same thing. All right. So here it tells us, and this is what it's explaining. Negative 9 squared means negative 9 times 9, which equals negative 81. But because the negative is outside and you're just squaring the 9. But negative 9 in parentheses means negative 9 times negative 9, which equals positive 81. So here are some examples for you guys to check. So if you do the negative outside and then the 5 squared in your calculator, it gives you negative 25. But if you have negative outside and then the 6 squared, enter, that gives you negative 36. But when we put the negative inside the parentheses with the 5, it does make a difference. So that's something that you have to pay attention to. Is the negative outside or inside the parentheses? Because it's going to make a difference. Negative 6 squared. And then it'll give you 36. And then whenever you're taking tests, they will purposely put both the negative and the positive on there, so that if you do make that mistake, you do not get it correct. Okay. So this next part is they do 2x to the third power. So the 2x is inside the parentheses. Okay. So that means that we are repeating 2x a total of 3 times. Okay, that means 2x times 2x times 2x. So then in our calculators, I'm going to do 2 to the third power, or 2 times 2 times 2, whatever you guys want to do. That's our coefficient. That's going to give us 8. And then x times x times x is going to give us x to the third power. Okay, so let's try this next one. This is negative 5ef to the third power. So negative 5ef, negative 5ef, and negative 5ef. Okay, that is going to be negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. I'm going to put that in my calculator. If we put it the negative 5 in parentheses to the third power, that gives us negative 125. And then we have e times e times e. That gives us e to the third power. Then we have f times f times f, and that gives us f to the third power. And that would be our answer. Okay. Now, number 22 is the exact same thing. It's a little bit confusing. Let's try number 23, just because I don't have that much space for that. So 3xy to the third power. That means 3xy times 3xy times 3xy. Okay? And then that one's negative 2xy to the third power. So it's going to be times negative 2xy times negative 2xy times negative 2xy. So then I'm going to go ahead and multiply the numbers. 3 times 3 times 3 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. That gives me negative 216. So we multiply all the numbers. Negative 216. And then x times x times x times x times x times x. That is a total of x to the 6th power. And then last is the y's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're multiplying 6 y's, so that's y to the 6. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop for today. I'll go ahead and continue on tomorrow, but I think I covered mostly the important parts, okay? We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.